So I recently discovered one of the most powerful and flexible database backend solutions that you can use for your app. And the best part of it all is that it's absolutely free. And so in today's video, I'm going to be showing you what exactly this tool is. I'm going to be showing you what this tool can do. And a little bit later in the video, I'm going to be showing you a proof of concept app that I built that seamlessly integrates with this backend solution and show you how you can do the same with your apps as well. Now, before we get started, as always, all the apps that I demonstrate and or build in all of my videos are going to be available for you to view and or clone from my Patreon page. And you can learn more about our amazing Patreon community using the link in the description of the video. Now, the tool that we're going to be talking about today is called NoCode, and it is available at nocodeb.com. And this tool is actually one of the more popular open source tools out there. So it's 100% free and it's also open source. And as you can see, it has 37,000 GitHub stars. And I actually don't remember reviewing a tool that had more GitHub stars than this one. And in fact, this is probably one of the more popular open source tools that I've seen and that I've reviewed on this channel. And so their claim to fame is an open source Airtable alternative. And these are all the databases that it supports. So you can use any databases with this tool that you want. It's also trusted by all of these companies. And they say it's the fastest growing open source project. Okay, so they have a big community. And if you scroll down, you can kind of see some of the testimonials and see why are people raving about this tool. And over here, you can kind of learn more about this tool. And so if you are familiar with Airtable, then you're going to feel right at home with this tool. And so you can take a look over here at different views, different ways that you can structure your data, different ways that you can display your data, depending on what kind of app that you're building. And of course, regardless of how you structure this data, regardless what kind of data you have in there, you will be able to access this tool very easily via your front-end app of choice. And a little bit later in the video, I'm going to be showing you my proof of concept, a FlutterFlow app that beautifully interacts with this tool so that you will know how to do the exact same thing with your applications as well. Plus, you can also automate different things. You can build automations with your favorite apps, Microsoft Teams, Slack, Discord, WhatsApp, Twilio, email, and SMS. And last but definitely not least, you have a very rich set of APIs that you can access and do pretty much anything that you want via your front end. Now, this is a tool that you need to self-host. And when it comes to self-hosting this tool, you have many ways of doing it. But one of my favorite ways of self-hosting different tools is by using a tool called Railway. Now, I've actually talked about Railway in some of my previous videos, but in a nutshell, it's a very easy and straightforward way of hosting just about any open source tool out there. And so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna self-host this tool, and then later I'm gonna be showing you different things that you can do with this amazing tool. So once you sign up for your free Railway account, what you want to do is you want to click on start a new project. Now on this page, you want to type the name of the tool that you want to self-host. Now, once you type NoCodeDB, you're going to have two options to choose from. I recommend picking the second option because that is an easier way to self-host this tool. So if you click here, you're going to be on a page that looks something like this. Now, because I've installed this tool, it's telling me that this repo is not available. When you're going to be installing this tool for the first time, you're not going to have any issues here. So if I change this, now I can deploy it. So what you want to do is you want to click on deploy, and it's going to go ahead and set up your own personal instance of this tool. Now, I've already actually deployed this tool. So if I go into my dashboard, you can see that I already have this tool here up and running. So if I click on this tool, you will see that I have it right here. And this is exactly what you're going to see after the deployment completes. So once you're done deploying it, you're going to be given a URL right here, automatically generated for you. And this is your gateway to your personal instance of this tool. So you can simply click on it and you're going to be redirected to your personal instance of NoCode. And so you're going to be on a page that looks something like this. Here you can start a new project right here. I already have a project here, so I'm going to click on this project right here, and I'm going to be redirected to this page right here. So if I click on one of my tables here, I'm going to have a table that I already created for this tutorial here. Now, if you've used Airtable before, this screen right here should be very, very familiar. But in a nutshell, what you can do is you can create various tables and you can display the data in that table pretty much any way that you want. So for instance, here I have a table called Sheet 1. And this table looks like your typical spreadsheet. So Google Sheets, Excel. I have two columns here, name and city. I can add a new column right here. I can call it country. And for the column type, I can pick any column type that I want. Typically, you're going to pick single line text right here. Click save. And now you're going to have a new country. You can simply double click on it, and you can enter the name of the country. So for instance, this is probably United States. Maybe you want to, type Spain. Maybe you want to type Mexico, stuff like that. Now you can also add new rows to this data by clicking here. So I have 5 rows here and I can add a 6th row. And let's say I want to give it a name called Tim, and the city here is going to be Atlanta, and the country is going to be United States. Okay, so I can keep doing that by adding new rows, and I can add new columns. Now here I can display the different fields. So for instance, if I click here, I don't want to display city, I can just uncheck it, and all I'm going to be seeing is name and country. So if I click here, I want to show all, and now it's going to display all of them. Here I have my filters, so I can add a new filter. I want to filter where name is equal to Tim, and it's going to create a new filter. And in this case, I'm only going to be seeing one record. This is very, very powerful because you can create multiple filters. You can also add a filter group, which is going to allow you to filter data any way that you want over here. Next, you can also sort your data. So let's say I want to sort by name in alphabetical order. I'm going to select name A to Z. Maybe I want to sort it in reverse alphabetical order. I'm going to have Z to A. And now it's sorted. The next thing that I can do is I can customize the way that I'm displaying this data. So right here, I have this traditional grid type view, and this is your typical Excel, Google Sheets, your spreadsheet view. But I can also create a gallery. I can create a form. I can create a Kanban, which is your kind of Trello type view where you can drag and drop different cards depending on their status or something like that. So lots of interesting things that you can do. Now, one of the more powerful things that you can do is you can create a new table and pull data from another table into it. So I'm going to say sheet 2, for instance. Here I'm going to create a new table. I have a blank table here, and let's say I want to pull in data from this first table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new column here, and for this column I can do a link to another record. So let's say this column is, I'm going to call it link, and here I can pick the type of relationship. I can say, well, this column has many items from another table, or I can specify many to many. So let's say it has many, and I can choose sheet 1, click save. And now what I can do is I can double click on this link right here, click this plus icon right here, and I can select different records from the first table. So let's say this is a one record with, Tom here. And so if I expand it, you will see I have Tom here. I can also add more records, right? I can also add Mike right here. And now as you can see, this record here has a link to 2 other records in one of my other tables. Now I can obviously add more records here. Let's say I want to add Jordan, and I can give it a title. Let's say this is, I don't know, record 1. And now, as you can see, I have one record in my second table, and I just gave it record 1 as a title, and it has links to 3 records in the first table. So if I go back to the first table, I can see that there's a link that has been created to the other table. So I have Tom, Mike, and Jordan linked in that second table. They're also represented right here. And so as you can see, this is very, very powerful because it allows you to create multiple tables and then have a column, a field that essentially links to various records in other tables. So you can create any kind of interesting data structure that you deem important for the app that you're building. Another feature that I find very, very useful is that after you've done creating your tables and setting up various relationships among them, you can easily generate a diagram that shows you exactly what's happening. And for that, all you need to do is click here, go to ERD view, and you're going to be shown a nice diagram that, shows the relationships between different tables that you have. So this is really cool, but imagine if you have like many tables, maybe you have like 20 tables or 15 tables, you're going to easily see exactly what's happening. So you're going to see all the fields in a particular table with the type of field here shown as an icon, and you're also going to be shown a relationship among different tables represented by this line right here. So this is very, very useful as you are designing a more intricate and a more complex data schema for your app. Now, it's important to understand that this is a smart database backend in the sense that you can be notified when something happens with your data. So for instance, let's say you finish creating your data schema, you've entered your initial data set, and now you want to be notified if something happens to this data. So for instance, if a new record is created, if a record is updated, or maybe if a record is deleted. So all you need to do is pick the table that you're interested in monitoring, select this thing here up in this header right here, and select webhooks. And here you can define a webhook, which is essentially an event that gets sent to some third-party app when something happens to your data. So you can call it, webhook 1. And here you can select the type of event that triggers this particular webhook. So if I click here, I can select after insert, after update, after delete, after bulk insert, bulk update, and after bulk delete. So let's say one of my records was updated. I can select this after update, and then I can do a post to a specific URL. And if you scroll down, you can see a sample payload that's going to be sent to your third-party application. So we chose after update, and it's going to send you a previous row and the new row as well. And that way you can compare the data and decide what kind of action you want to take depending on the data that you're looking at. And so, for example, you can take a look at the rows that were there before the update, compare them with the new rows, and decide if you want to take a particular action. And so, as you can imagine, this is very, very useful in many situations because this essentially allows you to listen for any kind of changes that may occur with your data. And so I can imagine tons of apps that can take advantage of this functionality. Now, of course, you can easily download this data as CSV. You can also upload this data as CSV. So if you have a ton of data stored elsewhere, or you have a CSV file ready to go, you can easily upload this using this built-in functionality. Now, all of this is nice and all, but if you're going to be building an application and that application is going to be relying on this data, in other words, the application that you're going to be building is going to be displaying this data, is going to be allowing users to modify this data, maybe update different fields, delete, things like that. You need an easy way to access this data from your application. Unfortunately, it's really, really easy to do just that. Now, if you click on APIs and support, and you click on this first link right here, Swagger documentation, you're going to be redirected to a page that has pre-built API calls with all the operations that you can do on your own data that is tailored for your projects. And in fact, that's the power of the so-called Swagger format, which this tool supports. And so if you take a look at this page right here, you're going to see all of these operations that you can do. But most importantly, you can see that it actually is showing the name of my table right here. So remember, my table name is sheet 1 right here. And if I click here, I can see that it actually has created these API calls for me, and it actually inserted the name of my sheet. So this is very, very useful, because all I need to do is pick the kind of operations that I want to use, and I can start building my app around it. So you can do things like you can list records, you can create, you can read, update, delete, count, find one, group by, bulk insert, bulk update, etc., etc. There's many, many things that you can do. And if you're working with another sheet, you can scroll down, you have sheet 2, and you have all of these operations for that second table as well. This is this table right here. And so let's say I'm building an app and I want to list the records for the user. I don't want to, create new records. I don't want to update records. I just want to list the records. So all I need to do is pick the right endpoint right here. So this is this list endpoint. Click here. It's going to expand this whole thing, and it's going to show me all the different things that I can pass. So like maybe I want to display certain fields, I want to sort, I want to do a filter, I want to limit, I want to shuffle, I want to do an offset. So maybe I'm doing pagination. Lots of different things that you can do. But most importantly, I can actually test a call right here on this page. But before I can do that, I need to authorize first. And so if I click here, I need to enter one of these tokens right here. So if you go back to your app, you click team and auth, you click on API tokens management, and you can add a new token. But as you can see, I already have a token. So I'm going to copy this token right here. I'm going to go back to my Swagger page, and I'm going to paste it in this XC token field. I'm going to click on authorize, and I'm going to click on close. And now, as you can see, the lock is closed, and I can actually try any of these API calls. So all I need to do is click on try it out, scroll down, and I'm going to click on execute. And now it's going to execute this call right here. This is the request URL. And right here, I'm actually seeing the data back. So we have Tom from Chicago. We have Rob in San Diego, Mike in Miami, Jordan in Los Angeles. And I can see exactly what the data looks like. I can copy it. I can download it. I can do anything that I want. And most importantly, I do not need to use another third-party API testing tool to do all of this. I can do this right inside this tool right here. I can do this right inside the browser, which is very, very useful. And so as you can see, I sent a request and I got a valid response back. And now I know I can start building an app that takes advantage of these endpoints. And in fact, I did just that. So here I am inside of a sample proof of concept app that I built that shows you how you can list all of your records that you have in your table, and you can also easily modify them in line. So let me go ahead and run this app. Let me show you how it works. Now we're going to jump back into FlutterFlow, and I'll show you how I build this app. So let's go ahead and create a test environment right now. All right, so here's the app, and all I'm doing here is I'm showing all the records in one of my tables, and I'm showing the name here and the city here. And so if I go back to NoCode DB, you can see that I have a table here with 6 records, and there are various fields. And in my app, I'm only interested in displaying the name field and the city field. So this is exactly what's being displayed right here. Now, I can also modify these records in line. So if you click on any of these records, you're essentially clicking on an editable text field right here. So I can change on any of these right here. So let's say I want to change Tom from Chicago to, let's say, Austin. All I need to do is type Austin, click out, and I get a message that says record updated. And then I can go back to my database here, reload it, and now Tom is in Austin. I can also change, let's say, Jordan, that's in Los Angeles. I can change Jordan to, let's say, Rich. Click out, and it says here record updated. And we go back, we reload this data, And now we have Rich in Los Angeles instead of Jordan. And so now that I've shown you a simple app that seamlessly integrates with NoCode DB, let's jump back into FlutterFlow and let me explain to you what exactly is happening. Now, before I show you the UI and how the user is interacting with the app, the first thing we need to do is we need to define our API calls. So here I have two API calls. I have list items and I have update item. And so all I really need to do is click on API and support, Swagger documentation right here. And I just need to pick the right endpoint here. So I'm using this endpoint right here. And I'm also using this update endpoint right here. And so as you can see, for list items, I'm using a simple get method call, and I have a sheet name variable right here. And so you can specify the name of the sheet that you're working with. And for update item, I'm using the patch method, and I'm specifying the sheet, which is hard-coded. You can make it a variable if you want, but I am specifying a row ID because the user is going to be modifying various rows, and we need to know exactly which row they're dealing with. So if you click on variables, you can see that I have a bunch of variables. So I have row ID, I have name and city, and that is because we need to pass the row ID. But for name and city, the user is going to be modifying those values themselves. They might modify the name or the city or even both. Now, once we've defined our API calls, what I'm doing next is I'm creating a simple data table right here. And for the backend query, I'm executing this API call, a list items. I'm passing the sheet name just as a sheet one right here. And then I'm pulling the items back. So I'm pulling the items from the result right here. I'm calling them items. And then all I'm doing is I'm specifying the specific field here to display. So this is going to display the name. This is going to display the city right here. Now, for the individual input fields here, what's happening here is that as the user is changing the field right here, I have an action here that gets triggered on unchanged. So anytime the user changes one of the cells, I have a backend call and I'm passing the row ID, I'm passing the name, and I'm passing the city back to the backend, so that it knows exactly which data to change. Once the call has succeeded and the data has changed, I'm just showing a simple snack bar that says a record updated. And that is pretty much all you need to do for your app to seamlessly interact with your NoCode DB backend. Now, of course, if you're one of our amazing Patreon supporters, you're gonna have access to this app, which means you can easily view and or clone this app in case you want to learn exactly what's happening behind the scenes, or you are interested in using this app as a template for a much more complex app that you may be interested in building that's going to be interacting with this amazing NoCode DB backend. But if you're not a member of our amazing Patreon community, then you definitely need to think about joining, because not only will you get access to this app, you're going to get access to all my no-code apps that I built on this channel, which means you'll be able to easily view and or clone them. Plus, you're going to get access to more content such as Q&As, live streams, behind the scenes content, and our Patreon supported masterclass series, which is where I do deep dives on specific topics that the community votes on. And more importantly, when you join our Patreon community, you're going to be supporting this channel and supporting my work, which is greatly appreciated. And so if all of this sounds like something you might be interested in, you love no code, you want to take your no code knowledge up a notch, maybe you want to build amazing apps, or you want to build a no-code business, then definitely check out our Patreon community and consider becoming a member. You can do just that using the link in the description just below this video. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you're looking for more content where I cover different backends that you can simply plug into your app, then check out the link right there. You're going to gain access to a playlist where I cover some very powerful and often free backends that you can use with your apps.